y'all. Welcome to the More Than Words podcast. We're your hosts, Liz and Shara, also known as the Aunties of Inclusion, because we can't forget that. I'm wearing my shirt today.
Oh, yeah, it's a rep it. Okay, I see you, girl. Okay.
Yes, I've been wearing it all over Houston today. All over Houston. Yes. I've been driving from here to here, and I'm like, they're like, oh, I love that shirt. I know, it's my podcast. Thanks.
Yes, and where's the free coffee? Don't just say hi, you like it. Give me something too, because I feel like it's hey.
I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna give you extra money.
I know. No, we not. So we don't have any more sponsorship money, Liz. We have so many sponsorships.
I know.
We can't. We gotta get some more sponsors before we can sponsor any more events. Because I feel like we have signed up. We have signed up.
Well, today's episode is gonna be so great. We have a guest today.
Don't start it. Don't get it going. Go get it going.
But we're going to start off with our auntie moment, right? So usually our auntie moment, we talk about brave things. We talk about courageous things. Sometimes it's our stories. Sometimes it's other things that we're observing and experiencing. Sometimes a lot of it is audacious moments. A lot of my stories are about my tias and my reflection back on my culture. Be like, oh, I do that. And other people do that too. But anyways.
It's all true though. And we need them reflections because we very similar though, some differences. We really do. We really do.
Like the watermelon with the songs. Like when you want to sing like lyric songs and like, you don't know the words to the songs because we were singing a song earlier and I only know the chorus. That's it. And I don't even think I have the chorus right.
Right. And then I told you, I said, look, you said saying watermelon. And I was like, nah, you supposed to say banana and watermelon to look like you saying the words and you really don't know them.
So it's just going to be a fruit salad then at that point.
Of course it is. I don't care. I just want to look like I know because I don't know any song in its entirety except for Happy Birthday. And I'm dead serious about that. I don't know what happened to that information.
Which Happy Birthday? Like the sad Happy Birthday song? The Donald Duck Happy Birthday song? Or the Stevie Wonder birthday song?
So first of all, I didn't know Donald Duck had entered the building on the Happy Birthday song, but I am going to say the traditional one, like one that it really just cannot stand singing is the traditional one, like, put the candle in the cake. Yes, it's so sad. It's dragging. But I definitely know that good old Stevie Wonder Happy Birthday. Okay, I know that song until they get to that second, third verse. And then I was like, I forgot that
and then it's like...
I was like, well, I guess we can just shake our shoulders here because this is all you gonna get because I don't know these words. But that doesn't matter because I know most of that. And by the time no one ever gets to that verse in real life. That's just for the radio.
That the candle's already blown out, the picture's taken, like we've already stuck the face in the cake. That's it.
Oh, wait, we don't do that, though. Hold on now. What are you talking about?
We do that. Mm-hmm.
What you mean? What's this violence we talking about here?
It's not violence. Is it violent?
What? You put the face in the cake?
Yeah, all the time.
Who eating the cake after y'all put this face in there?
What you do is like you sing Sapo Verde to you, Sapo Verde to you, which is which is a green frog to you, green frog to you. And it's Sapo Verde to you. So it's Spanglish. Yes. And then you're like, yay. And then everybody's like, mordida, mordida, which is take a bite, take a bite.
Oh, I love that.
And then the person goes, takes a bite. And then like, somebody just, and then their whole face.
Yes.
And we think it's funny.
I think it's funny too, but I'm not eating that cake though.
I know, it's so unsanitary.
I was like, you can have a smash cake, fine, but I ain't eating that cake. Where are the cupcakes for the grown-ups for the non-faces? I want no faces on my cake. I really just don't want that on my ice cream. I want no
terrible
faces.
What COVID did to us, right? Because
before COVID, did you eat the cake after that?
Yes.
Oh no, with the topping on the top too. Just face and bubbles all on the top. Okay, that's fine. No judgment. I'm not judging. It's fine because you know what? Your immune system is really high. Who's telling us?
I haven't gotten sick.
Who's telling us otherwise? Yeah, it works.
I drink water from the water hose. I played in the ditches in Northside Houston.
What? Northside?
Northside Houston.
It's not my side. I just wanted to be supportive.
No, I know. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm here for you, sis. I'm here.
Thank you for that.
Okay, wait, auntie moment. Come on. I've been waiting. I knew you got some.
I do have something. So I'm leaving today to the UK, gonna go be with my family. I'm so happy. I'm excited, which is why I'm talking really, really, really fast. We talk fast normally in our podcast, so just like lower it a little bit in the speed thing. But I'm talking super, super fast. One, I'm excited about our guests. Like, this is gonna be amazing. And two, I'm excited that I get to go and be, because home for me is wherever my unit is at, wherever my husband and my two gremlins are at. That's where home is at for me. So anyways, I'm packing stuff up, and you have to get, 23 kg is your limit on the bags. And I don't know what I'm taking. I am very much my tia, right? I'm taking, like, when you go and pack on a trip, you always think, you don't need it now. It's not like that face cream that you bought, right? That you put in the refrigerator. You're not actually using that. But when you go on a trip, you're like, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it on my trip. I'm going to find a refrigerator and I'm going to put it in. So that's what I'm doing, right? I had 2 big suitcases and I filled them up and I'm like, shoot, 25 kg. And the airline that I'm using is like very particular. They weigh your carry-on case, right? So I'm like, shoot. I'm like, well, I'm just going to have to get another suitcase. I'm like, and then I opened it up and I'm like, what am I doing? Do y'all remember the candle and my Baby Yoda piggy bank back there? They're coming. Why are they coming? Why are they coming? I don't know. I feel bad leaving Baby Yoda behind. So
put that candle down, girl. I can break that candle when I come. What are we doing?
So good. I don't know. Shara, this is what's happening.
I'm good. I'm not judging you, sis. Bring it with you. All of it.
I'm packing all this stuff up, and I'm thinking, do I really need all of this stuff? And then I took some time to go and spend I have 2 really close friends and we've been through a lot, both of these 2 friends. One of them had a quick cup of coffee with, great time, whatever. The second one was, it evolved into kind of a coaching session. And as I was thinking about like all the stuff I was packing in my bag and then thinking as I was driving to go get coffee, I was like, do I really need all of that stuff? And then I started thinking about when I was talking to my friend, I was like, how much stuff are we packing in our emotional baggage and carrying things that we shouldn't and don't need in our lives that are no longer serving us? Because all this stuff that this person was carrying was just like all this like baggage, and some of it was hers, some of it wasn't, and it's like, at the end of the day, my goal, what is my goal right now for me going on my trip? My goal right now is to be with my unit, to be home. Baby Yoda is not going to make that worse or better, right? It's not. So what are the things that are preventing us from feeling ultimate joy and preventing us from feeling that we are worthy of joy? And I always talk about joy, but I feel it's so important, and it's something that we're not paying attention. And also I feel like it's really part of a lot of what we don't really think about is, why we feel we are not worthy of joy. But yet when I'm talking to you, my hermana, Shara, and I'm like, Shara, like, it makes me sad that you're not feeling joy today, or that, you're having all these disempowering beliefs, or, all this stuff, right? And it's just like, so that was my tia moment today. One, like, we overpack way too much. And then also two, I got that face cream.
Put that face cream in there.
I'm gonna use those little eye things and that face.
Don't leave that, because you going overseas. You don't know what, them chemicals different. You'll be another journey trying to figure out what works and what don't work. But you know what? On the side, I appreciate you having this moment, because you know what? Black girl joy, we was talking about in our last episode. If you did not know why we said that, go listen to that episode. But I would say, you know what? You're absolutely right. This is my hypothesis around this joy intentionality, right? This intentionality around joy is because we went through something. Last couple of years, we went through something. And when people were sitting at home, they was like, see, when I get out of this thing here, or when I move out of this in a different way, I am going to be doing these lists of things. And joy has come up quite high on people's lists because they have had an absence of that or be more visible in acknowledging that they have. So yes, joy is going to come up. And if you're not hearing that word joy more frequently, be the one to bring it up. Second of all, I'm just so happy for you. I just can't wait for you to get on. Like, this is it. Like, we is in the moment right here. This is like when you put on, like, you know, in the beginning of the movie, and then all of a sudden you like something about to happen.
You got your big, large popcorn. Yeah. You got your my friend does Raisinets. That's weird.
Not me. I don't know. Let's not talk about them. No.
Yeah. So that's the auntie moment for this week. Anyways, think about your joy.
Yes.
So, all right, Sharon, do we want to introduce?
Oh, let me start because we all got stories.
Well, I'm gonna go real.
We're gonna go quick. Okay, so y'all, we have a guest today. So you gotta pull up your seat. When I tell you pull up your seat, pull up your seat, pull up your seat, I had to repeat it so if you ain't get it the first 2 times, pull up your seat because this person right here. First of all, Liz and I know this person, so you're gonna get the 2-part introduction. Okay, so that's special. So this individual I met in one of the hardest classes that I've ever been in, just candidly. So a couple of things. Y'all know CDI is love, right? Coach Diversity Institute is a great, amazing, challenging class. But this class in which I met this individual in was the first time that I had been in a situation where I was like, I don't know if I belong here. But guess what? In that class, I met some amazing people. And this person is one of the instructors. And I'm telling you right now, to this day, this individual is the person I would like to mimic. Okay. So if you don't know about third level listening, go look it up. This person right here is the original Dundada, okay, that I've ever met. Okay, so can do third eye listening
probably
like
laughing.
this.
I can hear him laughing now.
It's fine because let me just tell you, when you a coach, you taught to active listen and be neutral. So you think you know what you're doing until you meet a master at it. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, this person right here is if you ever get in his presence, then you need to spend some time with him, just observing and just watching him work. Because when I thought I had the best cat eye out here, I don't have the best cat eye compared to his cat eye, but my cat eye is good. You know what I mean? So anyway, when I met this individual, when I say I found a sense of belonging, connection immediately by watching someone very skilled in this practice of facilitation and coaching, this was the example that I said I need to mimic that. And so this individual really had an impact. And not only that, after that, he took time intentionally to lean and pour into me when he saw that, 1, I needed that, and 2, after it, offering that extra step to say, if you ever need some support, you have this number, this door is here. And keep in mind, this is a 3-day class. Like, what we really talk about, you don't know, but that is how important that skill set has been for him to seek out people like myself and others. And Liz, I know you got this risk because y'all been on. Like, y'all, not only did you follow up, but you follow up. Like, y'all got a whole nother relationship.
Yeah, so our guest, his name is Tony Farmer. He's a master coach. Aside from those are his identities, that's his credentials and all that. But really who he is to me, and for many people that are listening to our podcast that know Tony, they'll realize that he's a coach, he's a mentor, he's an ally, he's a sponsor. He is that person when we talk about reaching back. And I don't know how he does it. That's one of my questions for today, because
put it down.
How does he reach back so much? Like, you know, I randomly text and email and stuff. He is not, he gets it all the time. Anytime I reach a goal that I've set out to reach, and he sits there quietly. You know, he's an observer. He has that, third listening. He's an observer. It's not like he's out there like, how you doing? Keeping me, like, messaging me or texting me or anything like that. He's not there like, how are we doing on our goals? He's just waiting. He's gotten so much into my head and my heart that whenever I am struggling with something, I go to him. Whenever I've achieved something, I go to him. And he equally pushes me and challenges me as well as celebrates me. And I'll be honest with you, like, when I first met Tony, I was I wasn't sure. We were in this class And I mean, he has a great vibe, like a very approachable person. I knew there was something special about him in that class. But he was also very tough. You know, he kept you accountable. He pushed you. He wanted to see what were the triggers, what were the things that made you who you are, right? And he pushed me a lot. And so then when the class was over, he offered up, he said, hey, like if anybody wants some coaching sessions, you know, here's my email, hit me up, like I will coach you. And there were 2 instructors at the time in this class, and something told me, reach out to Tony, like go reach out to Tony. The other side of me is like, I don't know. Like I'm intimidated. Like my own self, this is my own it had nothing to do with him. It's not like he brought out, like it's not like he purposely was like intimidating me. I mean, I was intimidated. And the reason why now that I've gone through what I've gone through is that intimidation was fooling myself, because I knew how hard this was going to be. I knew how much work I had to do to get to the place where I'm at. And a lot of this podcast, a lot of my coaching style, a lot of my approach to with my clients, is because of him. Like he put that foundation. So I want to bring him on. Tony, you can turn on your camera now.
Tony, come on now. Yes. We don't have no props.
I was hoping the camera still worked, you know.
He's like, y'all got me waiting here. I know, Tony. We go on tangents. We go on tangents. So welcome, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm happy to be here with you all today. I started getting emotional. You guys were, you know, kind of giving some background on, you know, how we connected and how we all met, and certainly the both of you mean the world to me. This is not a one-way affection, right? So I'm just excited to be here. You know, we are connected on a number of different levels, but we also like to laugh. We also like to have fun. Yes, we do. We also
and
like
have
to
fun and party.
So, I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm just happy for the invite, and happy to be with you guys today.
Well, Tony, listen, we was telling the truth, okay? Listen, if you was feeling the feels, imagine how we feel on the other end, because I'm going to tell you right now, every time you come correct. So we always got to level up. We was just talking about leveling up with another CDI professional. And I'm going to tell you right now, I said, when you come in the room, I'll be like, let me do better. Like, that's just my first sentence. That's my first sentence to myself.
And that's not a bad thing. Like, I was just telling somebody, I'm like, if you're not surrounded with people who level you up and support you and celebrate you, then you got to find a new community.
True. Done. Okay, so Tony, before we get going, because you know we can talk. We can get in here. We'll be here all day if they let us. Okay, so Tony, you know the diversity wheel is what we sent you. It was really important to us. Like, we really believe in focusing on what are some of those similarities and differences so people can really connect more quickly and really find themselves in these stories from what we're sharing with them and who you are, frankly speaking, because we know you and we want other people to know you. But looking at the diversity wheel, what are the top 3 dimensions that really resonate with you and you use or embody every day?
Top 3. I think just treating people. I was talking to somebody. I find the weirdest quotes from the weirdest locations and the weirdest places. I had a quote that I memorized from John Wick. Now you think John Wick is, you know, very violent movie, you know, and it's kind of like the guy movie where everybody's shooting and flipping, and there's martial arts and the whole thing. But in the second version of John Wick, there was this line that kept coming up. And the line was, I have served and I will be of service. So the first thing that always comes to mind to me is, am I being of service? I'm created to serve. I know that is my purpose in life. Am I being of service in my engagement, in my communication, in my connection with people? And am I engaging in a way that is most profitable for them, for their growth, for their maturity, for them to reach their goals. So the first thing I always think about is service. The second thing, it's funny, we talk about it. It's one of those overused words, inclusion. I believe that if you walk into a room, any room, and you see all male or all female or all, one race or all another race, if you walk in and you don't see anybody in there with any disabilities, cognitive or otherwise, somebody should ask the question, where's everybody else? Somebody should ask that question. And I was watching a documentary on Billie Jean King, who's well known in her community for fighting for women's rights. And that's one of the things she said that she focused on during the course of her career. Like, where's everybody else? I can't be the only female athlete. I can't be the only one who has this competitive drive. I can't be the only one who wants to do and accomplish the things that I want to do. Where's everybody else? And why aren't they here? So the third thing I think that I focus on most of all is the idea of belonging. Do I belong where I am? In coaching, we have this fancy word we use called imposter syndrome, right? I won't go into explaining imposter syndrome, but the basic tenet of imposter syndrome is always doubting that you're good enough to be where you are, always doubting that you deserve to be in a place or to be doing a thing, whether other people think you deserve to be there or not. So this idea that wherever I am, that's where I'm supposed to be. And I'm there for a reason. And I'm there to help others feel the same. I'm there to create an environment where everybody can come into the environment, being their true selves. You guys had me cracking up because I watched as you kind of toggled between, your personalities and your interests and your love for one another. And if we can create an environment where everybody feels that way, wow, what a community we would have.
I mean, Tony, seriously, thank you for that amazing answer to our first question. We're done. I feel like we do this so much in all of our guests. They get to the first question and it's like, nope, we're done. We can record here, impacted. And that's why we built this whole.
Thank you. Next.
Yeah.
Don't start it. We'll start singing on here. They missed the whole movement.
I came ready for my song of the day. I just want to let you know.
I know.
We were scared to ask. I'm going to tell you that right now. P.S. I have to run it back. John Wick is for all because I love me some John Wick.
Me
I just
too.
want to go there.
I love John Wick.
I don't want no gender norms coming through here, but I just want to let y'all know. I get down with the John Wick, okay? And sometimes I be trying to do the moves, though. I ain't going to tell y'all those moves, because don't get in my business. I was giving y'all a little business, but not a lot. But,
one of my favorite songs is Kung Fu Fighting, right? So I do the John Wick moves with the Kung Fu. I mix the two.
Nobody.
Yeah.
No, don't y'all start it.
Yes.
This is how we end all. See, this why we can't keep. That's why. Okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna start nothing. I was about to say something, Tony, but then Liz gonna get on me.
I know, right? So Tony, one of the things, yes, we want to create this community, and that's why we want to bring guests in to tell their stories in here. The power story is so important for us. That inclusion, that equity, that belonging. I know in not all spaces you felt that, right? So in looking at your dimensions that are important to you at this moment, what are the stereotypes that you faced either personally or workplace, and how has that impacted you?
That's a great question. I can answer that question from a number of different dimensions. I'll start here. I had a lot of people in my own family who doubted the person that I am and doubted the person that I could be. There were people who in my own family didn't show up, weren't supportive. I'd say I'd wanted, I stated one of my goals to one of my family members, and they literally started laughing at me, and I thought, well, I didn't make a joke. This is something that I truly want to pursue and truly want to devote my attentions to. So what it created was a very deeply competitive person, right? Somebody who I want to know what the rules are because I want to know which ones can be broken and which ones can be bent. I want to know which ones can be replaced. I want to understand, you guys were talking about the level 3 listening. I want to understand by just hearing everybody else's perspective. I want to understand how people interact with one another. And I want to understand all of that before I say a word, before I begin to engage, because it gives me a landscape and it helps me map how I want to navigate through whatever situation. But to answer your question a bit more directly, yes, I've been in spaces where I think people have underestimated me. I love that. I've been in spaces where people have doubted my level of intelligence. I love that. I've been in spaces where people have compared me to somebody else who may have come before me that looked like me, that they thought, well, this guy will be here for, a splash and then they'll be out, because you know how they are, right? I love that because it triggers the competitor in me. I am the ultimate, oh, you think I can't do it? Oh, got you, right? We'll see at the end of the day. And I dare you to bet against me. Go ahead. I dare you to bet against me. And so that's just an attitude that I've carried, since I can remember. When you go through enough trauma, when you go through enough strife, just in trying to survive, right? Your upbringing, when you break through that, anything else, all comers, let's see what you got.
Yeah.
If that didn't destroy me, then it's hard for me to imagine that anybody else would bring something on the floor that would shake me in a negative way.
So first of all, you know what? You got me hyped. I didn't know we was about to go play football or what. I was like, where we going? Who wants some? I was getting amped on this. I mean, come on, you answer this question. I was like, what we about to do?
Well, I did play basketball competitively for a long while, and I actually coached basketball for a number of years, and also coached. So I am coach. If you
remember the Titans.
He is.
You remember the Titans. You remember the Titans. I know what I was feeling. I was like, I know I need to be doing something. I'm
telling you, Cher, this was our sessions. Every time I called Tony, this is what it was. Like, exactly. It was like he took in, and it was interesting. Like, I'm not a sports person, but you would bring that in, and really what you brought into our sessions was that empathy and that compassion and the never giving up on me, and also never allowing me to give up on myself, always challenging my thought processes and my disempowering beliefs. And now what you've created. So
it was always there. It was always there. It's none of my creation. It was always there. And
no, it's true. You uncovered a lot of things, but no, I mean, yes, absolutely. I think everybody has that power within them. It's a matter of how they shift it, right? So
absolutely.
But I think that goes to a good point though. Like, I think, something you said, the fact that you've had this impact on not just us, but so many others. But I am curious to understand, like, with all of this that you have overcome and are going through, what is the legacy or the impact that you are looking to have in the world?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking. My primary focus, I tell people who are close to me that when they ask me, Tony, what are you doing? What are you working on? Where are you working? What are you working on? What you doing? I always respond the same way. I tell them that I'm building an empire. And what that means for me is I want to leave something that not just my children are going to benefit from, but my children's children. I want to build a generational structure, foundation that will grow and feed itself over time. Call that generation of wealth, call that generation of knowledge and experience or talent, call it what you will. But I want that the next two generations understand some of the things that I've tried to do in this life, some of the people that I've served in this life. And the way that will manifest, at least the way I see it in my head, I coached two young ladies named Shara and Liz, and those two go on to be media moguls. Those two go on to be mega coaches.
You see what he does? You see what he does?
Speaking, I'm just waiting for it to come. Come on now, break it on.
During that process, when you all are in about 4 hours, 5 hours, Liz will literally be international. She will be an international coach in the most literal sense of the word, right? So I want that in future times when my children are looking to gain an advantage from a coaching perspective, they can use coaching, they can use maybe a lift, maybe some motivation, that somebody go, oh, you're Tony Farmer's kid, right? You're Tony Farmer's daughter. You're Tony Farmer's granddaughter or grandson. I got you, right? That's what it means to me to create a community of practice, which is another word I think is overused, this idea of community of practice. Community of practice to me is not just a group of people who have similar interests. It is people who are willing to invest in one another to create a community so that we can impact the world. I know that sounds a little hokey. It sounds a little.
It sure don't, because that's what we're doing right here. That's not. That's not.
Yeah, that's where I live.
We living in it right now.
That is one of our values, and exactly that. It's like every single person has a special skill. They bring something different to this community. We're not all going to be the same. We're all connected to a similar purpose.
Right.
But we have different skills and we have differences, and every single person has the capability and the power of using those skills, and that's what creates an effective community. So yes, I don't want to be in a community full of Liz's. That's loud.
Yeah. No. We don't need that. We don't need that in a positive way, though. We don't need that in a positive way, because what happens is, corporations spend a lot of time making all of us similar, right? Aligning us all similarly. But this is where we're going to spend the time and the difference, because that's what's next. That's what's here and now for the future. But Tony, come on. Liz done brought up something good now. Skill set. You have one of the strongest skill sets that I've ever seen, making you, of course, a master coach. But your third level listening, do you mind just giving us a little tea for real, okay, on how do you and how have you been able to hone your skill set around coaching, and specifically around your third level listening? And for those who don't know what third level is, so you may want to share that with them.
Yeah. So third level listening, in its essence, is the ability to disconnect from whatever thoughts, whatever processes that you would be in normally. 90% of people, when they are having a conversation, are listening to respond, right? So the third level of listening really is you have been able to pause your own thoughts about whatever is going on in the world, whatever is going on in your life, and you are zero focused on the information that's coming into you from an individual. And if you were to, since you asked the question, how did I develop that? I'll give you two things. The first thing is I've always been an unusually curious person, unusually curious. In fact, when I was really young, I used to read the dictionary because I just wanted to know what words meant. Somebody said a word. I read a word. This is a true story. I love comic books. I used to be a comic book collector, and I was reading one of the comic books, and the comic books used the word facade, F-A-C-A-D-E. And I thought, what does that mean? And I literally spent like the next 2 hours in the dictionary. I hit facade, got that, and then got off on about 10 other words. And I spent 2 hours, just trying to understand the structure of words and why people use them in a certain tense. So I've always been unusually curious. If I find an interest, no matter what it is, I will literally dig into it as if I was putting together a white paper or research paper on it. So that's number one. The other thing is, when I was young, my grandfather was, because I was an only child and, didn't have a lot of friends, I hung out with my grandparents quite a bit. And my grandfather actually set the foundation for my level 3 listening because, as you can imagine, 10, 11-year-old kid, the problems that you have at that age, right? And so I would go to my grandfather and say, hey, granddad, I got this issue, this thing I want to talk to you about. And my grandfather would turn the TV off, he'd turn the radio off, and he would sit in his chair and he would just look at me. He wouldn't say a word. And when he first started doing it, he used to freak me out. I'd be like, hey, granddad, you still with me? Because he would be so still. And after I shared whatever was troubling me, he could recite every word that I had uttered. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And so it's a practice that I crafted from my granddad from a young age. But again, when you start to grow mature and find yourself in corporate spaces or, executive spaces, the ability to just to listen without judgment, to listen without casting your own beliefs on other people, to listen just to understand how somebody is feeling. And that's the other thing about level 3 listening. You're not just listening to the words, you're listening to the tone. You're listening to the body language. You're listening to the emphasis. You're listening for energy. When the energy goes high and then when it drops low. You're listening for all of those things. And that helps gives you some context about who you're engaging with and what they need. To serve, I will serve and be of service.
One thing, Tony, that I have a question on with, that's something that you learned by experiencing that with your grandfather. And I think most of us, or I don't want to assume, but if we think about it, a lot of our things that we have are from, our grandparents and our family members that we carry. And caring for others and being empathetic and compassionate for others is something I feel for most people, right? I feel like it is innate, it's in there somewhere. But when you get into corporate settings and you have all these kind of expectations from your boss and these like deliverables that you're having to be, and as a person of color, you're having to shapeshift a lot and be a chameleon in different spaces because that's just how we feel like we have to do. And sometimes we tend to lose ourselves. Oftentimes we tend to lose ourselves. I'm speaking in my own experience as well. How do you, and from your experience, like one, did you ever experience losing yourself in that sense and working for corporate America? And second, and if you didn't lose yourself, how did you maintain this person that you are today?
Well, I would say that, again, because of the nature of my curiosity, aside from coach, I'm also a student. And so when I've gone into corporate spaces and I've encountered different cultures, people from different environments that I grew up in, I'm usually just studying. I am in study mode. I'm trying to learn whatever task that I've been given so I can be superlative and excellent at that. But I'm also just studying, right? Just studying. How do people engage me? I'll give you an example. It's not funny. So it is funny. I used to.
You're not making me laugh. Don't say it.
Yeah, you don't say it's not funny and then laugh.
Say that and then start laughing. I'm laughing too. I'm like, come on, what is it? I know it's good.
I used to work with this. I used to work at a company, and again, it's corporate, and everybody's hustling, and you're passing each other in the hallway, and people that you may not be able to spend a whole lot of time with, but you kind of give hey, how you doing? What's happening? I'll catch you at the next happy hour or whatever. And there was this one young woman, every single time without fail, she would say, oh, here comes trouble. She never said, hello, Tony. She never said, what's going on? It was never, hey, how's the family? It was always, without fail, every single time, here comes trouble. So one day, I just asked her, why do you say that every time you see me? Now, I didn't feel like I was putting her on the spot. I didn't feel aggressive. I wasn't angry. I was just curious why, because I counted. Right. I was counting. I was waiting for the moment that she changed her narrative, and she never did. And I was just curious, what about me said trouble to her? And I remember, God bless her, she turned beet red. She started apologizing. She made a really quick exit, from my presence. And I'm still standing there wondering, but you didn't answer the question.
You triggered something in there. Mm-hmm.
So I've never been one to assume that whatever somebody's reactions, engagement to me had any racial undertones, right? Now, I'm not crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, there have been some very deliberate, things said and done, and people have addressed me in, certain ways. And I thought, okay, I got it. But again, it's always from my perspective, it's always in the guise of studying. Okay, so now I know who you are. I know who you are. Okay, I'm not sure about you yet. And now I can maneuver between the two, right? I've had people come after my job, right? And I don't know about anybody else, but I got mouths to feed, right? I'm trying to get ahead. I'm trying to climb the corporate ladder.
Right.
And it would be peers of mine, that didn't like, how it is, they don't like you for whatever reasons. And, so I remember being pulled into my supervisor's office, and she said, well, we're thinking about putting you on probation, right? So I said, okay. And she ran down the list of reasons why, and I noted that all of the information she was giving me was from one source. So I asked her, I said, can you tell me what kind of feedback you're getting from my clients? No response. Well, we haven't talked to your clients. Okay. Can you talk to me about what kind of feedback you've gotten from the executives that I've worked with over the past year? Well, no. Okay. If you can't give me those two, can you give me some things that I can work on to improve to the degree that, this probationary period is not necessary? Well, I'll have to think about that. So I said, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we set up regular meetings? Now, here's what I'm managing up. She's supposed to be supervising me.
Right.
Let's set up regular meetings, and you can talk to me about the feedback you're getting about me from my customers, the executives that I work with, and you can give me tips on how to be a better employee. Is that good? We good? Yes. And about this probation thing, do you still think you have just cause to put me on probation? Now, all of that comes from being a student. You got to know policy. You got to know, what the complaint process is. You have to know a little bit about, the people who have gone before you and what they've experienced. So, for me, it's always been about being a student and being able to utilize that information to, create pathways for myself.
But Tony, let's go ahead and call this elephant out here, because we know good well that was microaggressions at play. That was definitely an individual using their power and influence and whatever conscious or unconscious biases they've had towards maybe their interaction with you and others. And so how this is the impact, right? I just want to call this out. This is the impact when people do not work on bias and do not hold themselves accountable in how they engage, interact, value, appreciate, and recognize others who are different than them. And so that instance where, once again, the person who is in this instance being systematically at that point oppressed by that corporate or that HR system is now at the point I have to be overly educated in the practices, customs, policies, and this environment to navigate it for you in engaging and managing me. It is absolutely ridiculous, and of course, very similar to the society that we live in, where those who are the most marginalized have to be always prepared to control the environment and create the environment so they can be successful.
And
so
carrying the burden of educating people all the time.
All day.
The time. And then
and not recognizing it in the moment. Like all you had to do was acknowledge in that moment, hey, you know what? That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. While you're here, let me hear your perspective. Yeah. Right? What happened to the person that you're speaking to having a voice too? And that's oftentimes a part of the issues with how we policy and we create environments, because it's usually very directionally top down versus in bi-directional, right? Like where everybody can have a chance to be heard and seen. Also it's an assumption, right? Some assumptions was in that space specifically around you where you were not as valued, whether that was a status, like maybe because an employee versus a leader or whatever the dynamics were at play. But it's still like, that is what we're dealing with here. And that's how that shows up. And that was a perfect example. Sorry that happened to you, even though I'm sure that's not the first of any instances where you had to use all of the skills and knowledge that you had to survive that moment.
I'll tell you what's interesting. First of all, I don't disagree with anything you said, right? But I'll tell you what's interesting. The peer that happened to collect all this information and took it to this person who was my supervisor was a Black woman, right? So here I'm thinking, if I were to step back and think about what my desire would be that here's a Black woman who may have seen things that I needed to work on, who would have come to me and pulled me aside and said, if for no other reason, let's take race out of it, that she wanted to help a peer get ahead, right? Instead, there was something about me, to this day, I don't know what it was, that she thought, no, I got to get rid of this person. I don't know why. So again, that's why I really lean into the curiosity, because a lot of, the knife wounds or, the stabs that I've incurred have come from people that look like me, right? So now there is a part of my brain, to your point, that goes, for people who don't understand my experiences, or people don't understand what it is to be an African American in the U.S., I kind of go, okay, well, there's a box, right? Okay, well, this is what, there are certain things that are within my realm of expectations for people who don't know. But a lot of, the trauma corporately that I've had to overcome have been from people that look like me. Now, I 100% agree that it is unfair for that burden to be on, people of color to continually educate people who don't understand the experience, people who are not lived experiences. I have not yet gotten tired of teaching. I have not yet gotten tired.
I bet that's true. But I would say, Tony. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I think I was breaking up, so I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
But I was going to say, Tony, that's a good point, right? In perspective, right? So I had my assumption clearly was very clear about the assumptions I had in the conversation, but it still goes back to how the impact of stereotypes. Right. It doesn't matter if what the other person looks like. You can still use that same behavior, whether you're the in group of that group or out group of that group, to still use biases and stereotypes to decide who you're going to engage with and how you see them based on either how they see themselves or how the world sees them. So I think that's a good point to say. It doesn't necessarily need to be black and white or, opposites. It could definitely be those within their own group because that diversity is important, right? It's so many other things that makes you diverse, right, where you are different even in your similarity. So I think that was a great point. But I would like to offer, this is a question that Liz had when we were trying to think about one of the questions for Tawana, right? We were talking to Tawana last a couple of episodes ago, and she was mentioning how she built cohorts. And one of the things that she said was important, and I think the very line of conversation you're in right now goes of why she says this, is Dr. Tawana Bird said that the most important factor for building a coaching cohort is having a Black male and at least someone in a different generation, i.e. maybe a college student or high school student, Black males specifically. So what have you seen? Like, first and foremost, what are your thoughts on what she said? And then second would be, what has been the barriers to attract, Black men in this space?
Well, first of all, I'm never going to disagree with Dr. Tawana Burns. Let me just throw that out there. She is my mentor and my sensei and my coach, and somebody who's provided me invaluable guidance since the day I met her. Here's what I would say. And my response to your question, because I thought about it a little bit, is directly connected to the DEIA work, the diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. The answer to your question really delves into that. Let me say this first. A lot of what keeps people of color, women, people with disabilities out of certain positions, right? And unable to take advantage of certain opportunities is access. It's access. Being coaches yourselves, you know how much you have to invest in being a coach. It is an investment. And not only from a time perspective, but from an economic perspective. That's number one. Two, you have to have the support of those people in your inner circle to be able to pursue this, because so many people, because there often isn't a product or a tangible thing that you can touch that comes out of coaching, people dismiss it as a profession. They dismiss it as a subject matter expertise. So I think those are two things that, one, limit African Americans, people of colors, but particularly African American men, because if I don't know even how to get into coaching, if I don't understand, or the coaching programs that we were all part of, CDI was 6 months, right? That's a commitment. People have jobs, they have children, they have households, they have family, and so it really does take a level of commitment, a level of support, and access. Do you have access? Now, I was fortunate because I was, working for the government at the time, and I was able to get into a government coaching program that absorbed a lot of those costs. But it ain't cheap. It's not an inexpensive thing. And for people that don't have sponsors or don't have the economic platform to be able to take advantage of some of these opportunities, it's very limiting, very limiting.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And we actually had one of our episodes where we talked about generational wealth and how, it's the resources and the access is something that is not available. I mean, I had to pay for that program completely on my own. I had to work a full-time job, not being able to take that time off. So I was basically working for 24 hours for every session and then trying to get through that program. I mean, I did it, and people would say, well, you did it. Yeah, but at what cost, right? I mean, who suffered, right? My kids, my extended family, and coming from a Latin background, we have extended upon extended upon extended family, and they're all critical, and they all get hurt if you don't go to a birthday party for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And you get that pressure, right? So what can we do, Tony, as coaches, as people? I mean, I consider myself very blessed in the position that I am in, in many factors. One, like I've stepped into my power. Two, I have an economic advantage as well. Two, what can we do as coaches or consultants to help this access gap or this resource gap?
So I would say you're doing it right now, and you're doing in that you're growing the community. Most of what I do, my goal at the end of the day is to grow the community. And how I do that is relative to my ability, financial or time or energy or otherwise, to be able to influence certain people, through my coaching, through leadership, through facilitation, right? Influence the way they think. And I don't, I've been asked, Tony, do you feel like you manipulate people? I don't mean it that way. What I mean is to fix them with a different perspective than they may have had, not only about themselves, but the situations that they find themselves in. Once you can get a little flexibility there, then the possibilities start to open up and you're able to engage with your creative mind. Now you got me talking like a coach, right? So when you start opening up your creative mind, there are so many things that open up to you in terms of possibilities. And, Liz, you mentioned that, you and I developed our relationship, in the classroom and then extended beyond the classroom. And I've said this to you many times, my mind is conditioned to listen to people who are looking for something different, right? I'm working, I make a good living, I got a family, I seem to have it all, but I'm missing something. And often that feeling is the doorway to being more creative about how you approach problems, how you approach your life, how you approach your goal sets. And that's where those algorithms to solving the generational wealth challenge is. It's being more creative. It's, how can I use my skills, gifts, and talents to change the system so that more people have access that I've been able to have, but seems to be shut off for the people that are coming behind me. That's
right. Like I got to a certain point and now I'm building a community and helping them and leveling them up. I mean, I think one of the things that came up for me from the CDI experience, the class that we were in, our coaching with other people that I've had the privilege to be coached and coach as well, because we all learn from our clients as well as from other coaches, is that and we talk about this a lot, the and also following our intuition, knowing that there is something else, knowing that and when we don't pay attention to it, when there's a little voice in our head telling us there is something else, there's something else, you have a bigger impact. And we start adding these like, but this, but that, what if this, I should have done this, that time has passed, all the shoulda, woulda, couldas, what ifs, all this stuff. And it's like, if you just kind of shut all that stuff out and you pay attention to that intuition and that gut, and you really do pursue that impact and that passion that you want to, that's where then the possibilities are endless, right? Like that's why I always talk about like that glass ceiling that I had. I don't have that anymore. I don't ever feel that. And guess what? I still have my semi-corporate job and I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not an or.
But it's still scary though. It's still scary. It's still scary because oftentimes you're going with the current, right? Like to think in this way means that you have to do something different, right? And you are surrounded more often so, unless you choose to be intentional around people who are just going with the current, right? Like your workplace, going with the current.
So it's interesting you say that. Excuse me for interrupting. It's so poignant. I couldn't let it pass. The number one challenge to creativity and growth is comfort, right? So you talked about how systems are created. And I could tell you my disdain for all the systems. We could spend a whole nother podcast on that. But to create this mentality that if I don't do this, then I will fail, and failure means this, right? Like failure means I won't be able to eat. Failure means I won't be able to feed my kids or my family, or failure means I won't be able to put a roof over my head. Failure means I'll be, in poverty. And that's not how the equation is supposed to work, right? So we get into these positions, right? You go to school and they kind of teach you like what you need to know, kind of, right? I have a disdain for school system too, but anyway. And then you get into the workforce and you get paid a salary and you go, okay, I don't have to worry about, where money's coming from. I don't have to worry about taking taxes out of my income. I don't have to worry about, the direct deposit. It's all set. All I have to do is worry about, how to do my job. I get that done, and then I'm good, right? Well, creativity and growth do not exist on the same line item as comfort. It just doesn't. And so if you think about some of the most radical growth spurts you've ever had in your life, they weren't comfortable, right? It was different.
Absolutely.
You learn how to do, a thing. You get really good at do that. You become a subject matter expert, and then somebody says, "Well, can you do this too?" And you, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. I don't. That's different from what I've been doing. It's uncomfortable. I don't want to feel that I want to feel the safety of comfort. I don't want to feel unsafe, which, is a Maslow hierarchy. We can get into that in another podcast too, but safety is a big thing. When you connect safety to fear, and you connect fear to comfort, it stifles a lot of growth. It stifles people's ability to take advantage of opportunities.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that we went there, because one of the last questions that we have before we move into our reflection is, you have shared with us, and you haven't shared this with this audience, but you are a person of faith. And I speak a lot about faith, right? And when you have not only, strong faith and intuition and all these skills, oftentimes they can get in the way of being neutral as a coach, right? Like, you can hear things and you can be in spaces where things come up for you. I think for those of us who have had to look at all the dimensions that make us who we are and choose to be a coach in this space, what are some of those things that you think would be important to share with those who are still trying to horn that skill to understand how they can make an impact here in their neutrality with their questions, with the confidence and skills of being a coach, versus all those other things that could pull you into other spaces like therapy and faith work and all those other pieces? Because we had a previous guest, just kind of put in context, Tia Norman, who was talking about meditation, right? And how meditation and spirituality and those pieces can give you space for that pause and to create new spaces. And I know that this is something we've talked about before, but I think it'll be important for the listeners to hear as well.
So the brain creates this factory of thoughts, right? Which impact our emotions, which impact our behavior, which it also impacts how we see things. It delineates truth from untruth, right? And when you look at it through that lens, those voices, one, can create a narrative, and often do create a narrative, right? All of us have a narrative. The thing then to determine is whether the narrative is serving you or not. Does the narrative serve me? Is it propelling me to be the best I can be? And is the noise in your mind so loud you can't consider any other perspective? So a lot of what I do in my coaching is what I call mindset coaching, right? What is your mindset? And every coach should have their thing, right? Every coach should have their little niche, So my little niche is, the acronym is COW, COW. The C stands for.
I love this one, by the way. He's used that on me.
What are you capable of, right? What are your limitations? What are your perceived limitations? What are things you told yourself you couldn't do that you never even tried? So that's all about capabilities and learning yourself and and understanding what that looks like. Then there's opportunities. Now, stands to reason, if you have capability, then you will have opportunities. I love to make cakes. Somebody finds out I like to make cakes. All of a sudden, somebody's calling me and say, hey, can you make a cake for me? Name gets around. You've seen it happen 100 times. All of a sudden, the brother on the corner has got a little cake factory, and you ask this person, well, are you getting paid for this? Well, no, I just like to do it because I like to do it, which is fine. My coaching would be you need to get a little bit of change for it. So there's capability, and then there's opportunity. The W is where all the work is done, where most of the work is done. Excuse me, the W is what are you willing to do? If you're capable and you've got the opportunities, then what are you willing to do? And the biggest challenge to willingness is fear. I would be willing to do a number of things if I wasn't fearful that I would fail at doing those things. And you go, well, right? Like I was coaching a young lady. I love to tell the story. I was coaching a young lady. She comes to me and she says, Tony, I'm going to write a book, right? I've got the format. She tells me what the format is. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. The chapters are, I've got it all in my head. Oh, that's wonderful. I'd love to see it, a draft, when you're about to go into publishing. She said, okay. So I don't talk to her for about 2-3 weeks, right? I see her again. First question I have for her is, how's the book coming? She says, well, I had to put a pause on the book. I said, well, what happened? She said, well, I need to go back to school. I said, you need to go back to school? She said, yeah, I need to go back to school to learn how to write. And I just thought, you gave me an outline, told me the pages were writing themselves. So now you're going to pause from the writing to go back and get a skill that you perceive that you need in order to write the words that are already in your head, right? So this is why faith, this is why meditation, this is why coaching mindsets are really important, is to help manage the noise that sometimes can be overwhelming and make you, pause in certain situations, make you move faster than you're ready to in other situations. Just give yourself space to just sit and process and think about where it is you want to go and when you want to get there and how you want to get there.
Tony, we usually end our episode with a moment of reflection. And you kind of just went right into...
Right.
Because all of that. One of my sessions with you was exactly all of that. You presented and I was smiling for those who could see the video. You should see my face when he started talking about willingness, because it brought a lot of emotions up from that session when we talked about willingness. And, I still have my whiteboard up there and I put in what am I willing to do? And I look at it every day. And first of all, I'm capable. I've been doing this my whole life. I have opportunities, but what am I? And usually that's it, right? And I love talking about fears, and I love talking about when we grieve things and the loss of things and everything, because that's really where it all is at. So I don't have anything else to add for our moment of reflection.
Me either, because I'm just going to say, I just have one thing to say. Tony, thank you so much for this, because honestly, this is really my reflection and a comment really, is because I just really appreciate it. First of all, I appreciate you always. You know how that go. And second of all, I just cannot believe, in this moment, it's the first time it was my aha moment where I was like, oh, I do need to coin the things that I do as my own, right? You have this acronym and each piece have a piece. And I'm like, oh, I do have that, right? I have a style that is uniquely me, that is something that I can own for myself. And now I can name it in that way and now feel some responsibility for how I show up each time. And honestly, I'll be honest, it's never been that clear for me. And Liz says it to me all the time, but Liz is Liz. That's your friend, that's your person. They gonna always be like, girl, don't dim your light, girl, don't dim your light, right? But this moment was just
my eyes are big, really, y'all. My eyes are big.
I know. She's giving me all type of face and love. And it's really love, I hope. But it's really that moment where it's like, I need to go ahead and take credit for the things I know that has helped my clients and helped those that I've worked with, that has been able to move to the goals that they have put in place for them. And I've been able to support that. And so I just was like, wow, Shara. Trademark.
Yeah. Well, and also too, like my whole thought process in this, because I was really afraid of shifting from my accounting side, and because I held on to the identity quite often, and I still do a little bit. She's a spec now, but shifting into whatever I wanted to do and not labeling me into something, not putting myself into a box. Like, I don't like boxes anymore. Don't put me there. But also, just owning that. And one of my biggest things, there's 8 billion people in this world. I will serve someone. Someone will benefit from me. Even if it's just that one person, I only need one, only one. So thank you, Tony, for coming on Tony. Our podcast, for trusting us and for sharing your story with our listeners. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for so having me. Tony. Thank you for the invite. And anytime you need me, I'm there.
All right. Thanks, Tony. All right. We'll see y'all very soon, everyone, with more guests, and follow us on Instagram at More Than Words Podcast. Send us those questions at Liz and Shara at morethanwordspodcast.com. And who do you want to hear from? Any questions that you have for us? You're curious about who we are, what we do? Go ahead and send us. If you have questions for Tony, send us over for questions for Tony and for Tony too.
Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.